Aew Dynamite. It is the greatest show known to man, if you're deaf and blind. But I'm neither, so it's not really that good, folks. But we're back with Aew Dynamite. It is the 19th of April edition of the show. And it begs the question, like, where is the game? I mean, I haven't actually heard a lot of hype about the game. I've seen recently they said, oh, it's all but done. And the guy's like, you wouldn't want us to release a game that's not 100% done. Tweeting that. Like, they've been hyping up this AEW game. I mean, almost even before they announced the company, it was like, aye, we're going to make a game. Tony Khan, Cody Rhodes, boom, we like gaming. You guys like gaming. We're all gaming nerds, man. We never leave the house. We never see sunlight. So let's create a game. But anyway, let's talk about the game. That's the thing. Who's the game going to feature? Like, see from how long ago they started making it, it's probably going to be like half the roster's probably left. Or ain't going to be in it because they've, like, you know, recently joined. But it is what it is. And aye, we do believe we kick off the show with Jungle Boy Jack Perry. He walks down to the ramp. He's about to speak. And then guess what? Out comes Guevara. Sammy Guevara starts speaking, and then Darby Allin's music hits, and it's just so cookie cutter, and you know, obviously like the script that they get the three of them out there, and it's literally just the segment that we had like a month ago. The only difference is MJF in here. Well, I say MJF in here. He is no here yet. Darby Allin starts talking, says, Sammy, of all the pillars, I've known you the most, big man, and but personally, I think Chris Jericho's holding you back. Aye. Chris Jericho, the guy that is the only guy in the company that's made Sammy Guevara any sort of relevant, say, is holding him back. But then he says, you can come to talk to me and Sting. Like, how hypocritical is that? Like, he says Jericho's holding Sammy Guevara back, but then he's like, you can come talk to me and Sting. Aye, it has to be me and Sting, because if anyone tried to speak to you, Darby Allin, they'd be that bored at their tits, they'd want to rope it, so there has to be Sting, because the Stinger's there. And of course we got that segment last week with Sting, which was alright, man. I've seen people saying, oh, is Sting officially better than The Undertaker? I mean, I like Sting. I'm a very big fan of Sting, especially like, you know, WCW and sort of good, really good work in TNA, but he's nowhere near the level of Undertaker, man. People saying, oh, but he's did it in more decades. Come on. Well, Taker wrestled in the 2020s, man. And, but, I mean, like I say, I think some people, because they don't like WWE, we'll just say they prefer Sting, but if you're being deadly serious, man, yeah. Anyway, Jack Petty says to Darby Allin, the only reason you're here is because you couldn't make it as a skateboarder, which I thought was kind of funny. And he buries Sammy Guevara too, but it's just, I don't know, it just felt a bit, it just felt like the segment from a month ago, but way worse. Like, I just thought it sucked. I don't know, like, it was almost a bit refreshing a couple of weeks ago or a month ago hearing it, because you never really heard them speak, and it was like, oh, so these guys can talk to a decent level, I guess, a wee bit, but no, they can't. I mean, maybe I put them over way too much, especially Darby Allin, man. He just comes out there with his half Skeletor face, man, looking like an absolute nugget, so I'm not a fan of that in the slightest. But eventually this leads to MJF coming out saying, because I mean, they all basically just start saying, well, I'm going to be the next world heavyweight champion. MJF comes out, no, he's like, I had a good friend, my friend Tony Khan, we're going to have a pillars we're going to have a pillars tournament, and he says, Darby Allin, you get a freebie, because guess what, tonight it's going to be Darby Allin getting a freebie, and it's going to be Jungle Boy Jack Perry taking on the big man himself, Sammy Guevara. But he also tried to make it look like it was going to be next week. But guess what, guys? It's not going to be next week. It's going to be the night. So we're absolutely loving life, don't we? Oh, aye. We love life. Right, next up with Jamie Hayter taking on, and Britt Baker taking on Ruby Soho and Tony Storm. So I believe this is like Britt Baker's first match in ages, because like that's what they were really hyping up to be. And the match itself is just very slow, and it gets even slower when Dr. Britt Baker comes in here. I mean, you'd be led to believe by AEW fans that Britt Baker is like an outstanding worker, right? But seeing she came in here, it was awful. And people like slabber about like women back in the day, like Tori Wilson and Stacey Keibler, that they moved faster than this, man. I don't know what was going on here. She was like hitting the worst ever clotheslines I've ever seen. Honestly, they were horrendous, and then like she like picked up Tony Storm and bounced off the ropes at like 1 mile an hour. It's like, what is going on here? I mean, Britt Baker, of course, wins. She was never really going to lose this match, in my opinion. And then we see the return of Arn Anderson, Double A, coming out. Basically, he's working. He's going to be working with Wardlow, because guess what? He's a horseman in his corner. Lovely jubbly. Next up, we have the Elite with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, and you just know that I've nearly fallen asleep here on a Thursday morning. But he basically says, well, these last couple of weeks have been the most difficult in my life. The Blackpool Combat Club, I hate yous. Yous were the most respected. But then, he's did some dirty things. He's put turnbuckles and screwdrivers together, and he said he's having trouble sleeping because of a screwdriver and turnbuckle. Honestly, that's just, I don't know. To me, that's embarrassing and cringy. But then he says, "Oh, I wish I took the screwdriver out and used it in your face." So here he is, openly admitting that he took a screwdriver out and stabbed John Moxley in the face. Honestly, man, this whole gimmick, this whole feud is essentially over a screwdriver. Then he says, "I want to see you in the ring and settle it like men." Then Daniel Bryan appears on the Titantron, basically says here, we're seeing a monologue here for a bunch of amateurs, continues to talk, and you can just tell by the crowd that the Combat Club have appeared behind them. We then get like a full-on brawl, Omega looking cringy, because you get Moxley who rolls underneath the ring, or out of the ring, and then Omega's like sitting there just waiting for Moxley to attack him, but it takes like 2 seconds too long, and it looks horrendous. And then the Blackpool Combat Club are getting the advantage here. Out comes Don Callis with a steel chair, but Danielson basically scares him off. But guess what? Takeshita comes out just before they can use the screwdriver. Oh yeah, and then Takeshita just buries like 4 people, and this bit's awful, right? Because he gets in the ring, he basically warns off Danielson, right? Then Wheeler Yuta comes in, so that's just like cringy as hell. And then the worst thing, Moxley's sitting in the corner waiting for an eternity to take some offense off Omega and take a shit. And before those two hit with the double clothesline, Moxley's jumped up to go over the top rope. Honestly, man, this was just a disaster. And then, take a shit was the difference for the Elite tonight. Excalibur's on the commentary saying, nothing was the difference for the Elite tonight, man. This feud. And the fact they're still called the Blackpool, man. They've got nothing with the Blackpool about them. The only gimmick that was called Blackpool is because Regal was for Blackpool. And Regal's been away for like 5 months, so can we just change the gimmick here, folks? Honestly, man, this just sucked. But next up, with a title match, TNT, with Powerhouse Hobbs with QT Marshall taking on Wardlow with Arn Anderson. And it's no surprise here that Wardlow becomes TNT champion, I believe, for the 3rd time here. Big Arn Anderson was in his corner. He actually hit a DDT, so it's good seeing Arn Anderson get involved here, but I kind of thought since Wardlow recently signed a contract with AEW that would give him a championship, and that's exactly what happened. And then with Kate Christian and Luchasaurus walking away onto the ramps, and then Taz's like, when you've got a title, everyone's after you. Like, why is Christian being used as like Luchasaurus' fucking manager? Back to the WWE, mate, and have a tag team run. Edge and Christian against the Usos, or against the other 2 Canadians, Owens and Zayn. That's the dream here. Christian has went to AEW, right? And I'll admit, at the start they pushed him. You know, he had the whole title feud with Kenny Omega. What's he done since then? He broke his arm and he's been feuding with Jungle Boy and like teaming up with Luchasaurus. That's just awful, honestly. That is just awful, man. And then MJF and Sammy Guevara are backstage. Sammy Guevara writes his price down and he promised to lay down for MJF at Double or Nothing. And seems like a fair price, said Renee. So who knows what he's written. So I mean, at least that adds something to this storyline, which I'm not too bothered about. But then, with the greatest wrestler of all time, with the Switchblade Jay White coming out to take on Commander. It's not a Commander ICs, it's just some Mexican guy wearing a white mask, and honestly, man, like, what are we even doing here? This is just horrendous. Like, this guy sucks. Jay White, right? Such a big deal. People made it on Twitter, the Indies, Dave Meltzer. Where's this guy going to go? Is he going to go to WWE? Is he going to go to AEW? And it's like, he didn't go to WWE because he didn't want to main event Mania and get put in a feud with Brock Lesnar. He went to AEW so he could have jobber matches, teaming up with Juice Robertson, taking on some guy called Commander. And these people actually think they know what they're talking about wrestling. Any momentum with Jay White is done. It's absolutely dead. But people start about Cody Rhodes, the guy who buried Seth Rollins. They got injured, came back, won the Rumble. I mean, he didn't lose clean the reins, right? And he's feuding with Brock Lesnar. Not a main event at Mania. Well, what is Jay White going to achieve that can ever be remotely close to what Cody Rhodes has done? Oh, but he can win the AEW title. AEW title means fucking dick. So once you've seen all the jobbers that have held it, man. Ever since Jericho held it, it's been nosedive. Now, I don't mind MJF. I think sometimes he can be awful, but honestly, I think he gets spots in this match where Jay White slap, then chops the Commander, he's falling. Then when Commander does chops to Jay White, he just walks it off. It's like, mate, you're not Kane, you're not Undertaker, you're not 7 foot, you're 6 foot. I think he's 6 foot. Jericho said he was 6'4". Not a hope in hell's this guy 6'4". But honestly, man, this just sucked. This just sucked big time. But of course, Jay White wins. Ricky Starks comes out and helps Sean Spears, who was watching in the crowd. So yeah, that's who Jay White gets to feud with. Ricky Starks and Sean Spears. But that's better than the Bloodline and Brock Lesnar. Like it definitely is. Anyway, I digress. We have Darks Harwood and Cash Wheeler backstage with Renee Paquette. And apparently Mark Briscoe was attacked last week. But yeah, earlier tonight. And then Mark Briscoe says, here, do you want to team up to take on Jay Lethal? Who knows? Who I do not give a shit. They shook on it. Just what the visual of those two running with their flabby stomachs, man, is enough to make you sick, right? Then with Jericho and Adam Cole, bye-bye, having a wee talk in the ring. And this is just awful, man. It's just Jericho is being so watered down, feuding with Adam Cole, man. It's embarrassing. It's just, I mean, Cole, we're in Pittsburgh, and we've got Jericho and Cole in the same ring for the first time. I have a ton of respect for you. And then they shake hands, and then Jericho's like, you're lucky I don't slap your dumb face right now. And then Cole tries to bury him, essentially saying, the Appreciation Society win all your matches for you, and all this good stuff. And this show's fucking depressing me by this point, man. Honestly. And then, essentially, this just ends up, right, after nothing, no words that mean nothing here, just a load of garbage. The Appreciation Society come out, batter Adam Cole, but then, guess who comes out for the save? Britt Baker. Britt Baker comes out, because that's going to stop the Appreciation Society. That's going to stop Chris Jericho, the guy that beat The Rock and Austin in the same night. And then, of course, we can't attack Britt Baker, so Jericho turns around after the slap. And guess who comes out from under the ring? The Outcast. We get handcuffs here. Adam Cole's handcuffed to the ring. Jericho's hitting him with a kendo stick. And then they're like, who's going to attack Britt Baker? And how much better for heat-wise would this have been for Jericho if he started hitting Britt Baker with a kendo stick? But no, it's cringy. They have to force the Outcasts in here in order for, because men can't hit women, but the women can hit men. Like, back in the day it was alright, why can't it be alright now? I mean, it's like, honestly, I don't get it. I don't get this gimmick. It's so cringy where the men just stand there and can't do anything. And see the kendo stick shots here that Saraya Page is hitting him with, man. Honestly, horrendous. Absolutely horrendous, man. There's just no force behind him. And Adam Cole's handcuffed, reaching over as if his wife is getting shot or stabbed here by like Michael Myers. Awful. This was horrendous, man. Talking horrendous with The Acclaim versus Jericho Appreciation Society up next. Just a jobber match. I do not give a shit. Personally, and Parker gets pinned. Bowens picks up the win, but it's main event time. I've just skipped over that last match because I do not care. But The Acclaimed win. If they lost, they would have had John JS, but guess what? They didn't. And then it's main event with Sammy Guevara versus Jungle Boy Pat Kerry. There's a botch at the end. Essentially, he gets hit off the rope, Jack Perry, he bounces off the table. Didn't exactly work out for him, that did it. And then MJF jumps over the barricade, cracks Jack Perry with the diamond ring that he has on his finger, always for some reason, and Jack Perry was counted out. So, Sammy Guevara advances, and that is the whole plan here for MJF and Sammy Guevara to be in the ring. Well, they celebrate in the ring afterwards, but of course he wants him to lie down to him at Double or Nothing. But what doesn't make sense to this is, why would they make Darby Allin, right, get a bye to the next round? Well, MJF said that, like they picked his name out of a hat. Why not just rig it if we were just going to do this entire plan all along instead of putting Sammy Guevara in this match. You know, like, come on, that's just a bit stupid. Anyway, this Dynamite sucked, troops. I mean, Dynamite always sucks, and yeah, Jay White, absolute bum, and all that good stuff. So, till next time, leave your thoughts down below, and peace. I'm giving it a 0, right? I think I got -60 about 2 weeks ago. We'll give it a 0, so it's did 60 better.